Commander Jake Harrison stood at the front window of his ship, the USS Liberty. He looked out at the huge alien fleet, floating in space like a giant metal sea. The enemy ships were silver and shiny against the black sky filled with stars. Each of their ships was at least 3 times bigger than any human ship. The voice of Admiral Lisa Carter came through the radio from the main ship, the USS Independence. All ships, stay in your places. Remember, we came here to talk, not to fight. The human fleet had only 12 ships. They were small destroyers and cruisers that looked like toys next to the giant alien ships. Captain Ryan Brooks was on the USS Defiance. He could hear the alien voices talking to each other. The ship's computer was changing their words into English. The aliens were laughing. "Look at these weak little creatures," said the voice of the alien fleet commander Vextar. 12 tiny ships? This is what Earth sends to talk with the great Zephyrian Empire. Maybe we should just take their space now and not waste time pretending to be nice. Lieutenant Amy Collins was working at the radio station. She looked up at Commander Harrison with worry in her eyes. "Sir, they are not even trying to hide that they think we are weak. Should we tell Admiral Carter?" Harrison's jaw got tight. He had fought in 3 different wars before this. He knew the signs when he saw them. The Zephyrians did not want to talk fairly. They saw humans as weak and small and easy to beat. On the big Zephyrian ship, Commander Vextar waved his hand at the human fleet on his screen like he was brushing away a fly. "Send a message to the humans. Tell them we will listen to their sad begging, but we will not change our demands. They will give us their outer space colonies, or we will take them by fighting." The message reached Admiral Carter a few minutes later. She read it with Captain Steve Murphy, her main planning officer. Both officers had expected this kind of proud behavior from the Zephyrians, but the clear lack of respect still made them angry. "Admiral," Captain Murphy said quietly, "they think we are completely helpless. They think our small number of ships means we cannot fight back." Carter nodded with a serious face. "Let them think that, Steve. Sometimes the best plan is to let your enemy show their cards first." But across the human fleet, the crews were getting restless. Chief Engineer Bobby Taylor was on the USS Valor. He told his captain, "Sir, the crew is asking questions. Why did we bring such a small group to face a huge fleet like this?" The truth was something that only the top officers knew. It was a secret that would soon turn the Zephyrian laughter into screams of fear. The space around both fleets was quiet except for the soft hum of engines and the beeping of computers. The Zephyrian ships moved slowly in perfect lines, like they were showing off their power. Their hulls were smooth and gleaming, covered in weapons that could be seen from far away. Gun turrets the size of small buildings pointed in all directions. Energy shields glowed faintly around each ship. Commander Harrison walked around his bridge, checking on his crew. The USS Liberty was one of the smaller ships in the human fleet, but every person on board knew their job perfectly. They had trained for months for this moment, though most of them did not know exactly what they were training for. "Sir," said Lieutenant Collins, "we are getting more messages from the aliens. They are talking about how easy it will be to destroy us." Harrison stopped walking and looked at her. "What exactly are they saying?" Collins looked at her screen and read the translated words. "They are making bets on how long it will take to destroy all our ships. Some say 5 minutes. Others say 10 minutes. They think it will be fun to watch." On another human ship, the USS Thunder, Captain Danny Rodriguez was having a private talk with his weapons officer. "Are all the special systems ready?" he asked in a low voice. "Yes, sir. Everything is working perfectly. The Zephyrians have no idea what we really have on these ships." Rodriguez nodded. "Good. When the time comes, they are going to get the shock of their lives." The alien fleet kept moving closer. Through the big windows of the ships, human crew members could see the enemy vessels growing larger and larger. The Zephyrian ships had strange designs with sharp angles and glowing lights. They looked like they were built for war and nothing else on the USS Striker. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Green was doing final checks on equipment that the alien sensors could not see properly. The Zephyrians thought they were looking at normal human ships with regular weapons. They had no idea that each ship in the small fleet had been changed with technology that was humanity's biggest military secret. Colonel Green, her communications officer, said, "We are getting the ready signal from all ships. Everything is working." Nancy smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Good, the Zephyrians wanted to see what humans can do. They are about to get a lesson they will never forget. The alien commander Vexstar was getting impatient. He had been waiting for the humans to give up, but they were still floating in space, not moving forward or backward. On his ship's main screen, he could see the 12 small human vessels clearly. They looked so weak and helpless that he almost felt sorry for them. "Signal the humans again," he told his communications officer. "Tell them they have one more chance to surrender before we destroy them all." But Admiral Carter was not planning to surrender. She was sitting in her command chair, watching the timer on her personal screen. She had been counting down the minutes until the moment when everything would change. The space between the two fleets was filled with radio signals. The humans were sending coded messages to each other, while the Zephyrians were talking openly about their plans to attack. Neither side was willing to back down, but only one side really knew what was about to happen. Commander Harrison looked at his crew one more time. These were good people, brave people who had volunteered for this dangerous mission. They deserved to know that their sacrifice would mean something important. "Listen up, everyone," he said to his bridge crew. "In a few minutes, we are going to show these aliens something they have never seen before. We are going to prove that humans do not give up, no matter how bad things look." The crew members nodded, but Harrison could see the worry in their eyes. From where they sat, it really did look like 12 small ships against 200 giant ones. They trusted their officers, but they were still human beings who could count. What they did not know was that the 12 ships of Admiral Carter's fleet were not just any ships. They were prototypes of Project Phoenix, humanity's secret answer to the growing alien threats in the galaxy. Each ship was designed to look harmless while carrying enough firepower to fight an entire enemy fleet. The moment of truth was coming soon. The Zephyrians had laughed at the small human fleet, thinking they were weak and stupid. They were about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who look the least threatening. Admiral Carter's voice came over the radio one more time. "All ships, this is your final warning. Prepare for Phoenix Protocol. In 60 seconds, we show them what a small fleet can really do." The countdown had begun. 3 hours had passed since the meeting began, and it was clear that the Zephyrians saw this as nothing more than a chance to embarrass humanity before they took over human space. Admiral Carter sat in the meeting room on a neutral station floating between the two fleets. Across from her sat the alien leaders, their strange crystal faces reflecting the lights in the room. High Commander Zethrin was the biggest of the aliens. His body was tall and thin, covered in what looked like living crystal that changed colors when he moved. When he spoke, his voice sounded like glass breaking. "Your demands are not acceptable," Admiral Carter said firmly across the table. Zethrin's mouth parts clicked together in what the translation computer said was laughter. "Admiral Carter, you talk like you have a choice. We have looked at your fleet. 12 small ships against our 200 battleships and carriers. Your technology looks old. Your ships are ridiculously small. What possible power do you think you have?" Back on the USS Liberty, Commander Harrison got a priority message from Admiral Carter. Only one word appeared on his personal screen: Phoenix. His blood felt cold when he saw it. He immediately called Captain Danny Rodriguez on the USS Thunder. "Danny, did you get it?" "Yes, Jake. Phoenix Protocol is active. How long do we have?" Harrison looked at his watch. "Carter will keep them talking for 2 more hours at most. Make sure your people are ready." On the big Zephyrian ship, Tactical Officer Krelvin was running detailed scans of the human fleet. His job was to find weaknesses in enemy ships before battle. What he saw confused him. "Commander Vexstar, their ship designs are strange. The power readings do not match normal military ships of their size." Vexstar barely looked at the information on his screen. "It does not matter. Weak species always have weak technology. Keep watching them, but do not waste computer power on detailed scans." This casual dismissal would prove to be the biggest mistake the Zephyrians ever made. Lieutenant Colonel Nancy Green was on the USS Striker, running final checks on equipment that the alien sensors could not identify properly. The Zephyrians saw standard human ships with normal weapons. They had no idea that each ship in the small fleet had been secretly changed with technology. That was humanity's greatest military secret. Colonel Green, her communications officer, said, "We are getting confirmation from all ships. Project Phoenix is fully ready." Nancy allowed herself a small, grim smile. Good. The Zephyrians wanted to see what humans can do. They are about to get a demonstration they will never forget. The meeting room on the neutral station was getting more tense by the minute. High Commander Zethrin was clearly getting tired of Admiral Carter's continued refusal to give up. "This is becoming boring. Human, you will accept our terms, or we will simply take what we want by force. Your tiny fleet cannot possibly hope to fight against our power." Admiral Carter leaned back in her chair. Her face was calm, even though she knew how serious the situation was. "Hi, Commander. There is something you should understand about humanity. We have a saying, it is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog." Zethrin's translator had trouble with the saying, but the meaning was clear enough to make him laugh more. "Simple sayings will not save your species, Admiral. You have one final chance to surrender with dignity." Carter stood up slowly. Her hand moved to her communication device. "Hi, Commander. I think it is time you learned why Earth only sent 12 ships to face your armada." She pressed the button on her communicator. "All ships. This is Admiral Carter. Execute Phoenix Protocol. Show them what a small fleet can really do." The moment Admiral Carter gave the order, something incredible began to happen to the human fleet. Commander Harrison watched his bridge displays light up as the USS Liberty's hidden systems came online for the first time in real combat. All stations begin Phoenix transformation. "Chief Wells, bring the main cannon online." Chief Petty Officer Tom Wells had spent 3 years training for this moment. His hands moved quickly over the controls he had practiced with so many times. "Yes, sir. Main Phoenix cannon, charging, 60 seconds to full power." Across the human fleet, the same thing was happening on every ship. What the Zephyrians had dismissed as small, old ships began to show their true nature. Parts of the hulls slid away, revealing massive weapon systems that had been hidden inside each ship's structure. Energy readings that had seemed modest suddenly jumped to levels that made the Zephyrian sensors scream warnings. On the Zephyrian flagship, Tactical Officer Krelvin stared at his displays in complete shock. "Commander Vextar, the human ships are changing somehow. Their power signatures are increasing beyond anything we have seen." Vextar finally paid attention, his crystal eyes growing wide as he looked at the tactical display. "That is impossible. Ships cannot simply hide that much firepower. Our sensors would have detected it, but the impossible was happening right in front of them." Captain Rodriguez on the USS Thunder was the first to complete the transformation sequence. His ship, which moments before had looked like a modest destroyer, now bristled with weapons that belonged on the biggest warships ever built. "Phoenix, transformation complete. All weapon systems online and ready to fire." The secret that only humanity's highest military leaders knew was that the 12 ships in Admiral Carter's fleet were not just any ships. They were prototypes of Project Phoenix, humanity's answer to the growing alien threats in the galaxy. Each ship was designed to appear harmless while carrying enough firepower to take on an entire enemy fleet. Lieutenant Amy Collins on the U.S. Liberty monitored the Zephyrian communications as panic began to spread through their ranks. "Sir, they are trying to get weapon locks on us, but their systems are having trouble with our new configurations." This was exactly what the human engineers had planned. The Phoenix ships used adaptive hull technology and multi-spectrum stealth, systems that confused enemy targeting computers. What looked like one small ship to their sensors was actually something far more dangerous. The transformation was not just about weapons. The ships themselves seemed to grow larger as hidden armor plating extended from their hulls. Sensor arrays that had been concealed beneath fake hull sections deployed like metal flowers blooming in space. Each ship now looked completely different from what it had been just minutes before. High Commander Zethrin's voice boomed across all communication channels as he rushed back to his ship from the meeting station. "All ships, battle stations immediately. The humans have tricked us. They are not as helpless as they seem." But Admiral Carter was not finished with her surprises. She activated a fleet-wide broadcast that reached every Zephyrian ship in the area. Her voice was calm and cold as ice. "Hi, Commander. Allow me to introduce you to humanity's Phoenix Fleet. Each of these 12 ships carries the firepower equal to 250 of your battleships. We brought a small fleet because we did not need a large one." Captain Billy Johnson on the USS Revenge had locked his weapons onto the nearest Zephorian battleship. The targeting computer showed a perfect firing solution, Admiral. "We have targets locked on their primary vessels, waiting for your orders." Carter's voice cut through space like a knife. "Fire at will. Show them what happens when you underestimate the human spirit." The first Phoenix cannon blast lit up space like a small star being born. The Zephorian ship it hit simply disappeared, leaving nothing but glowing particles floating in space. The battle had begun, and the aliens were no longer laughing. The destruction of the first Zephorian battleship sent shockwaves through both fleets, but for very different reasons. The humans felt the satisfaction of a perfect trap, while the Zephorians felt the terror of realizing they had walked into their own destruction. Captain Rodriguez fired his second shot from the USS Thunder. The Phoenix cannon beam carved through space and hit 2 Zephorian ships at the same time. Both ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light and metal. Direct hit on targets 7 and 8. They did not even have time to raise their shields. Rodriguez reported to Admiral Carter. Commander Vextar was screaming orders across his fleet's communication network. His voice had lost all of its earlier confidence and pride. "All ships, move away from the humans immediately. Return fire now." How is this possible? The answer came from his own tactical officer, Krelvin, whose voice shook with fear and disbelief. "Sir, their weapon systems are beyond anything in our databases. Each shot carries the power of a small star. Our shields are completely useless against this level of energy." The Zephorian ships were trying to scatter, but they were moving too slowly. Their huge size, which had seemed like such an advantage before, now made them easy targets for the Phoenix cannons. The human ships, smaller and faster, moved between them like deadly sharks hunting in a school of fish. Lieutenant Colonel Green on the USS Striker had locked her weapons onto the Zephorian flagship itself. She wanted to target the ship that held Commander Vextar, the alien who had laughed at humanity just minutes before. "Big target coming up, Colonel," her weapons officer, Sergeant Pete Mitchell, reported with grim satisfaction. "Phoenix cannon ready to fire." "Take the shot, Sergeant. Let us show them what happens to bullies." The beam that erupted from the USS Striker was different from the others. This Phoenix cannon had been specially set for maximum fear effect. Instead of instantly destroying Vextar's flagship, it systematically tore it apart piece by piece. The alien crew had time to understand exactly how outmatched they were as their ship died around them. Admiral Carter watched from the meeting station as the Zephorian formation fell apart completely. Ships that had seemed so powerful and frightening minutes before were now running in all directions. Their commanders had abandoned any attempt at organized fighting. Admiral Commander Harrison's voice came over the communication channel. "We are receiving surrender requests from 47 Zephorian ships. Should we accept them?" Carter thought about this for a moment. The Phoenix fleet had been designed not just to win battles, but to send a message that would spread throughout the galaxy. Sometimes mercy, when used at the right time, could be just as powerful as destruction. "Accept surrenders from any ship that powers down all weapons and submits to boardings. Continue attacking any ship that keeps fighting." The battle, if it could even be called a battle, lasted exactly 7 minutes. When the last Zephorian ship either surrendered or was destroyed, the human fleet hung in space, almost completely undamaged. The Phoenix ships had taken only minor hits from the few enemy vessels that had managed to return fire before being eliminated. Chief Wells on the USS Liberty ran diagnostics on their Phoenix cannon system. "Commander Harrison, all systems are working perfectly. We could do this again right now if we needed to." Harrison nodded grimly. That had been another crucial part of the Phoenix design. These weapons did not need long recharge times or extensive maintenance between battles. They were built for sustained combat against overwhelming odds. The space around the two fleets was now filled with debris from destroyed Zephorian ships. Pieces of metal and crystal floated in all directions, glowing from the heat of destruction. The surviving alien vessels hung motionless, their crews too shocked to do anything but wait for orders from the humans. High Commander Zethron's voice came across the emergency communication channel. All of his earlier arrogance had been replaced by desperate pleading. Admiral Carter, we surrender completely. Please, stop the attack. We yield to human authority. Carter's response was measured and cold. High Commander, your empire threatened human colonies and dismissed our attempts at peaceful talks. You laughed at our small fleet and assumed we were weak. I trust this demonstration has corrected your wrong ideas about humanity. Captain Murphy, standing beside Carter on the observation deck of the meeting station, could not help but smile. Admiral, I think we can safely say that the message will be received loud and clear throughout Zephyrian space, but the message was already spreading much further than just Zephyrian space. Other alien species had monitoring stations throughout this part of the galaxy. They had been watching the confrontation between the humans and Zephyrians, expecting to see a quick victory for the larger fleet. Instead, they had witnessed something that would change their understanding of human capabilities forever. Within hours, reports of the Phoenix demonstration would reach every major alien government in known space. On the USS Revenge, Captain Billy Johnson was receiving communications from multiple sources. Admiral Carter, we are getting priority messages from 3 different species. They all want to establish immediate diplomatic contact with Earth. Carter raised an eyebrow. Which species, Captain? The Andromedan Council, the Rigel Confederacy, and the Tau Ceti Alliance. They are all requesting emergency meetings with human representatives. This was exactly what Earth's military planners had hoped for. The Phoenix demonstration was not just about defeating the It was about establishing humanity's reputation as a species that should be taken seriously by everyone in the galaxy. Lieutenant Colonel Green was overseeing the collection of Zephyrian prisoners when she received a priority message from Earth Command. The message made her smile with satisfaction. Colonel, this is Admiral Parker at Fleet Headquarters. Congratulations on the successful demonstration. The Phoenix project has exceeded all expectations. Furthermore, you are authorized to inform any hostile contacts that Earth now has multiple Phoenix fleets in active service. The exact number remains classified, but potential aggressors should assume that underestimating humanity will always prove fatal. This was perhaps the most important part of the entire operation. The 12 ships that had just destroyed most of a Zephyrian armada were not the only Phoenix ships that humanity had built. There were more, hidden in secret bases throughout human space, ready to respond to any threat. The beauty of this strategy was that no enemy could be sure how many Phoenix ships actually existed. They would have to assume that every human fleet they encountered might contain these devastating weapons. This uncertainty would make them much more cautious about attacking human territory. Commander Harrison took one last look at the debris field that had once been over 100 Zephyrian warships. The lesson was clear and would echo throughout the galaxy for generations to come. Never judge human capabilities by human appearances. The surviving Zephyrian ships were being escorted by human vessels back toward their home territory. They would carry the story of what had happened here to their government and their people. The tale would spread from there to other species, growing and changing with each telling. Some would say that the humans had used trickery and deception. Others would argue that the Zephyrians had brought their defeat upon themselves through arrogance and aggression. But everyone would agree on one thing: humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. The small fleet that had been laughed at now commanded the respect and fear of species across known space. The Phoenix demonstration had proven that sometimes the most devastating force comes in the smallest package, and that underestimating humanity was a mistake that few would make twice. As the USS Liberty prepared to return to human space, Commander Harrison reflected on what they had accomplished. They had not just won a battle, they had changed the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The aftermath of the Phoenix demonstration sent ripples across the galaxy faster than anyone had expected. Within 6 hours of the battle, emergency sessions were being called in alien governments throughout known space. The small human fleet that had been dismissed as weak had just rewritten the rules of galactic warfare. Admiral Carter stood in the communication center of the meeting station, watching as message after message arrived from different alien species. Each one carried the same urgent tone of surprise and respect that had been completely absent just hours before. "Admiral," Captain Murphy reported, "we have received formal requests for immediate diplomatic meetings from 17 different species. The hegemony of Proxima, the Vegan Trade Union, the Centauri Republic, and even the isolationist Sirius Collective want to establish relations with Earth." Carter nodded with satisfaction. "Schedule preliminary meetings with all of them, Captain, but make it clear that any future negotiations will be conducted on equal terms. The days of aliens dictating terms to humanity are over." High Commander Zethran had been brought aboard the human station under heavy guard. The once-proud alien leader now sat in a detention cell, his crystalline features dulled with defeat and shock. When Admiral Carter came to speak with him, he could barely look her in the eyes. "Hi, Commander," Carter began. "Your government sent you here, expecting an easy victory. You came with 200 ships because you thought 12 human vessels would be helpless against such overwhelming force. You were wrong." Zethran's voice was barely a whisper. "We had no knowledge of your Phoenix technology. Our intelligence report said humans were a young species with limited military capabilities. Your intelligence was based on what we allowed you to see," Carter replied coldly. "Humanity learned long ago that sometimes the best defense is to let your enemies underestimate you." On the USS Thunder, Captain Rodriguez was dealing with a very different kind of problem. Word of the Phoenix demonstration had reached human colonies throughout the outer territories, and the reaction was overwhelming joy and relief. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving celebration messages from every human colony in the disputed zones. The settlers on Kepler Station say they are throwing a week-long festival in honor of the Phoenix fleet." Rodriguez smiled. Those colonists had lived under the constant threat of Zephyrian attack for months. Now they knew that humanity had the power to protect them from any alien aggression. But the most important messages were coming from alien governments that had previously ignored or dismissed human diplomatic efforts. The Arcturus Federation, which had refused to even acknowledge human territorial claims, was now requesting urgent meetings to discuss mutual defense agreements. Commander Harrison was reviewing intelligence reports that painted a picture of panic spreading through hostile alien factions across the galaxy. The Zephyrian defeat had shattered assumptions that many species held about human military capabilities. "Sir," Lieutenant Collins reported, "our deep space monitoring stations are picking up increased military communications from the Draconian Empire. They appear to be recalling their forward fleets and consolidating their forces in defensive positions." This was exactly the reaction that Earth's strategic planners had hoped for. The Phoenix demonstration was not just about defeating one enemy fleet. It was about convincing all potential enemies that attacking humanity would be far more costly than they had previously believed. Lieutenant Colonel Green received a secure communication from her superiors on Earth that made her understand the full scope of what they had accomplished. "Colonel, this is General Williams at Strategic Command. The Phoenix demonstration has achieved results beyond our most optimistic projections. Hostile alien activities along our borders have decreased by 70% in the past 12 hours. The message continued with information that even Green had not known before. Furthermore, intelligence indicates that 3 major alien powers are now actively seeking alliance agreements with Earth rather than viewing us as a target for expansion. On the Zephyrian ships that were being escorted back to their territory, the crews were struggling to understand what had happened to them. Many of the alien soldiers had never experienced defeat before. The Zephyrian Empire had been expanding unchallenged for decades, crushing smaller species with overwhelming force. Captain Johnson of the USS Revenge was monitoring the communications as the defeated fleet limped home. "Admiral, the enemy crews are asking their commanders how they should report this defeat to their government. Some are suggesting they should claim they were outnumbered." Carter almost laughed. "At this, let them report whatever they want. Captain, the truth will spread regardless of what their official reports say. Other species witnessed what happened here. The story will get out, and the story was indeed spreading. On dozens of worlds throughout the galaxy, alien leaders were holding emergency meetings to discuss the implications of humanity's hidden military strength. Some were panicking, others were impressed, but all of them were forced to completely revise their understanding of human capabilities. The Rigel Confederacy, which had been planning their own expansion into human territory, immediately canceled their military preparations and sent peaceful envoys instead. The Confederacy's High Council had watched the Phoenix demonstration through their spy satellites and decided that discretion was the better part of valor. Back on Earth, the news of the Phoenix fleet's success was being celebrated in ways that the crew could barely imagine. President Martinez addressed the planet in a speech that was broadcast to every human colony and ship throughout space. Today, our brave men and women of the Phoenix fleet have shown the galaxy that humanity will not be intimidated or conquered. We are a peaceful species, but we are not a weak one. Let this demonstration serve as a warning to any who would threaten our people or our worlds. The political implications were enormous. For years, human diplomats had struggled to be taken seriously by established alien powers. Now, every major species in the galaxy was eager to establish formal relations with Earth. Commander Harrison received updates on the changing galactic situation throughout the day. Sir, the Andromedan Council has offered to share advanced medical technology in exchange for a non-aggression pact. The Tau Ceti Alliance wants to establish joint research facilities. Even the mysterious beings from the Magellanic Clouds have made contact for the first time in recorded history. This last development was particularly significant. The Magellanic Cloud beings had been observing galactic affairs for centuries, without ever directly communicating with any species. The fact that they had chosen to make contact now suggested that they viewed humanity as a major new power that could not be ignored. Admiral Carter was preparing to return to Earth when she received one final message that made her realize the true scope of their victory. It came from the Galactic Coordination Council, the closest thing to a unified government that existed among the older alien species. Admiral Carter, the message began. The Galactic Coordination Council formally invites Earth to join as a full voting member. We believe that humanity's unique perspective and capabilities would be valuable additions to our alliance. This was the ultimate recognition. For decades, Earth had been seeking membership in the Council, only to be told that humanity was too young and inexperienced to participate in galactic governance. Now, after a single demonstration of military power, they were being invited to join as equals. Captain Murphy looked at the invitation with amazement. Admiral, they are offering us everything we have been working toward for the past 50 years. Full Council membership, territorial recognition, access to their advanced technologies, and mutual defense agreements. Carter nodded slowly. Send our acceptance, Captain, but make it clear that we join as partners, not as junior members seeking approval. The Phoenix demonstration has shown that humanity brings unique strengths to any alliance. As the human fleet prepared for its triumphant return to Earth, the galaxy was already adjusting to a new reality, where humanity was recognized as a major power that demanded respect and cooperation rather than conquest and submission. 1 month after the Phoenix demonstration, the galaxy was a very different place. Admiral Carter stood on the observation deck of the New Earth Embassy Station, watching as ships from dozens of alien species came and went in orderly lines. Where once human vessels had been ignored or threatened, now they were escorted with honor guards and given priority docking privileges. The station itself was a symbol of how much had changed. Built in record time using both human engineering and alien technology freely shared by new allies, it served as humanity's first permanent diplomatic outpost in neutral space. Every day brought new delegations seeking trade agreements, defense pacts, and cultural exchanges. Commander Harrison had been promoted to admiral and given command of the station's defense fleet. He watched the daily traffic with satisfaction, remembering how different things had been just weeks before. Admiral Carter, we have the weekly intelligence briefing ready. Carter nodded and followed him to the secure briefing room. The intelligence reports painted a picture of a galaxy that was rapidly reorganizing itself around the new reality of human power. The Zephyrian Empire has completely withdrawn from all disputed territories, Harrison reported. Their government issued a formal apology to Earth and paid reparations for their previous attacks on human colonies. High Commander Zephyrin has been removed from his position and is under house arrest for his failure. But the Zephyrian defeat was just the beginning of the changes. Species that had been hostile or indifferent to humanity were now competing to offer the most attractive alliance terms. The Draconian Empire, once one of humanity's most dangerous enemies, had sent envoys offering to share their advanced shield technology in exchange for mutual defense agreements. Captain Rodriguez, now commanding the USS Thunder as part of the station's permanent fleet, brought news of developments in the Outer Rim territories. Admiral, the pirate fleets that have been raiding human shipping lanes for years have simply disappeared. Our merchant vessels are reporting the safest passage rates in recorded history. This was not surprising. The pirate fleets had survived by preying on species they considered weak or unprotected. After seeing what happened to the Zephyrian Armada, no pirate captain was willing to risk attacking a human ship that might secretly be carrying Phoenix-level weaponry. The economic implications were enormous. Human trade was booming as species throughout the galaxy sought to establish commercial relationships with Earth. The Vegan Trade Union had offered humanity most favored nation status in all their markets. The Centauri Republic was proposing joint manufacturing facilities that would combine human innovation with alien resources. Lieutenant Colonel Green, now serving as the station's chief strategic officer, received daily reports on military developments throughout the galaxy. Admiral Carter, our intelligence sources report that 17 different species have begun major changes to their military doctrines. They are all trying to develop counters to Phoenix-style weapons. Carter smiled at this news. Let them try, Colonel. The Phoenix technology is just the beginning of what human ingenuity can accomplish. By the time they develop countermeasures, we will have moved on to something even more advanced. The truth was that Earth's military research had not stopped. With the Phoenix fleet, scientists and engineers were already working on the next generation of weapons and defenses. Inspired by their success and motivated by humanity's new position in galactic affairs, on Earth itself, the Phoenix demonstration had transformed human society. The fear that had gripped human colonies for years had been replaced by confidence and pride. Recruitment for the military and space exploration services had increased dramatically as young people sought to be part of humanity's expanding role in the galaxy. President Martinez had established the Department of Galactic Affairs to handle the flood of diplomatic communications arriving daily. The department's first major task was organizing Earth's formal induction into the Galactic Coordination Council, an event that would take place with unprecedented ceremony. Captain Murphy, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, was preparing for the induction ceremony. The event would be broadcast throughout the galaxy and attended by representatives from every major species. It would mark humanity's official recognition as a galactic power. Ambassador, his aide reported, "We have confirmed attendance from all council members, even the Ethereal Collective, which has not participated in a council ceremony for over a century. We'll be sending a delegation." The Ethereal Collective's participation was particularly significant. They were one of the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy, so reclusive that many younger species considered them mythical. Their decision to attend humanity's induction ceremony was seen as the ultimate seal of approval back on the embassy station. Admiral Carter was reviewing the latest intelligence on how the Phoenix demonstration had affected different regions of the galaxy. The report showed that the mere possibility that any human fleet might contain Phoenix ships had fundamentally changed military calculations throughout known space. Admiral Commander Harrison reported the Proxima hegemony has canceled their planned invasion of the Kepler system. Their military advisors concluded that the risk of encountering Phoenix ships was too high to justify the operation. This was exactly the kind of deterrent effect that Earth's strategists had hoped for. Without firing another shot, the Phoenix fleet was preventing conflicts and protecting innocent civilians throughout the galaxy. The psychological impact was just as important as the military one. Species that had viewed humans as primitive newcomers were forced to completely revise their opinions. Humanity was no longer seen as a species to be managed or controlled, but as an equal partner whose opinions and interests had to be respected. Lieutenant Amy Collins, now serving as the station's chief communications officer, brought news of cultural developments that showed how thoroughly perceptions had changed. Admiral, we are receiving requests for cultural exchange programs from over 30 different species. They want to study human philosophy, art, science, and military strategy. The University of Alpha Centauri had established a new department of human studies, while the prestigious Andromedan Institute of Technology was offering full scholarships to human students. Museums throughout the galaxy were requesting exhibits on human history and culture. But perhaps the most significant change was in how conflicts were being resolved throughout the galaxy. Species that had previously settled disputes through force were now more likely to seek mediation and peaceful solutions. The Phoenix demonstration had shown that any conflict could escalate beyond control if one side possessed unexpected capabilities. The Tau Ceti Alliance and the Rigel Confederacy, who had been preparing for war over mining rights in the neutral zone, instead agreed to binding arbitration. Both sides privately admitted that they could not risk discovering that their opponent had developed Phoenix-equivalent weapons. Admiral Carter received a personal message from the Supreme Chancellor of the Galactic Coordination Council that summarized how much had changed. Admiral Carter, the Phoenix demonstration has brought a new era of stability to our galaxy. For the first time in centuries, major conflicts are being resolved through negotiation rather than warfare. Humanity's example has shown that true strength lies not in the size of one's fleet, but in the wisdom to use power responsibly. As the human fleet prepared for its return to Earth for the Council induction ceremony, Carter reflected on what they had accomplished. They had not just won a battle or even changed human fortunes in the galaxy. They had fundamentally altered the nature of galactic civilization itself. The small fleet that the Zephyrians had laughed at was returning home as heroes who had reshaped the destiny of countless worlds. The lesson they had taught would echo through the stars for generations. Never underestimate humanity, for in doing so, you underestimate the power of ingenuity, determination, and the refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. The galaxy had learned to respect humanity, not through conquest or domination, but through the demonstration that sometimes the greatest strength comes in the smallest packages, and that wisdom and innovation can triumph over size and arrogance. Every time